Hello, welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to share with you a simple $1 meal idea. So I have an entire playlist of these, which I will link down below in case you're new here or if you just need a refresh and you've been here for a while and you want some really cheap meal ideas. I got you. So for me, a $1 meal doesn't mean the entire meal cost $1. It means per serving, aka what I call a meal, is $1 or less. And today's recipe is brand new. I've never shared this recipe on my channel before, but I've been perfecting it for a little while. And I'll be honest with you, personally, I probably won't eat this recipe. I am just getting out of my first trimester of pregnancy and I'm still having food adversities. So I'm making this for my husband and he can have this today for lunch and throughout the week as he wants it because he really loves this meal. I'm also going to make a homemade loaf of bread. That recipe will not be shown on this video just because I've shown it so many times, but it will be linked down below on my blog. So make sure to check that out. It's a great comfort food, especially for the holiday season. But today we're making a stuffed pepper soup. And then, like, I will tell you, it is very, very good. It might not be what I'm in the mood for or craving or really want right now, but it is delicious and I know you're going to love it. And another thing you're gonna love is the cost per serving. The cost per serving for me cost around 90 cents. Now, obviously this is really debatable depending on where you live, where you grocery shop, the prices, the inflation, etc. But I do like to share healthy, cheap meal ideas to get your guys' wheels turning whenever you're looking for healthy meal ideas at a low cost, low budget for you and your family. All right, we got some cooking to do. Let's get this soup started. Ingredients in today's video. And also I was super pumped because I found peppers on sale, which I feel like they're not in season. So why are they on sale? Doesn't matter. I have 2 peppers and a smallish medium white onion. For this recipe specifically, I feel like it tastes so much better with white onion paired with the peppers. I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe you guys taste no difference in the sweet yellow or white onions, but this one, even though it's got a little marking on it, I think it's perfect with a white onion. I have some sea salt. You can add other seasonings as well. I'm just doing a quick salt. That's it. A can of whole peeled tomatoes in juice. 1 can of tomato sauce. A can of fire roasted tomatoes with garlic. I try to always buy the one that's seasoned because it costs the same amount. And then I have extra seasoning in my soup. This might surprise you, but instead of lentils, I'm actually using kidney beans. Pinto or kidney beans taste really, really good with this soup. And I have found that it actually tastes better, in my opinion and my husband's opinion, than to lentils, but you can definitely use lentils too. You can do it either way. You can use a different kind of bean if you want, a white bean, doesn't matter. It's really good with the kidney beans. And then we're also going to use about a half a cup of rice. Rice is so inexpensive. You can use brown rice if you want to. That works really good with this recipe. I don't have any on hand, so we're just using white, but I've also done this recipe with wild rice. Really, really good too. It's been about 500 years, personally, since I have made my homemade veggie broth because I just haven't felt like it. So we're just gonna go veggie broth like this. I share this all the time. I get this at the Dollar Tree, so it costs me about $1.25 for 30 servings. It is high in salt, but it's high in flavor. So you don't have to add extra salt if you don't want to, but if you have the time, make your own veggie broth. It's super easy. I can add a recipe down below so you guys can try mine out. We'll add that in with our ingredients. The first thing I'm gonna do is get my onion all chopped, and I'm not gonna talk during this process because it always makes my eyes water. So we're just gonna keep our mouth closed. I'm adding a little bit of salt because I like to sweat the onions. I just feel like they turn out better that way. And then we're gonna get our burner on a medium heat. And I'm gonna add a little veggie broth to this to saute those. I don't like to cook with oil, it's just personal preference. If you cook with oil, you would add a little oil with this. So I just add a little like water saute at a time. Once this starts to soak up and the onions release their water, they'll start to be really translucent, and the salt really helps with that too. We'll just let that cook for about 3 or 4 minutes. Okay, I like to chop everything really fine because I feel like it's better that way. I'm gonna let this cook for about 3 minutes until the peppers get a little tender. My onions are perfect how I like them, and then I'm gonna start adding everything in and we're gonna bring it to a boil. This is such a fast soup. Okay, I lied. I will definitely be eating some of that soup for lunch. And I'm also gonna include the bread recipe into this video. I'm gonna make an Italian loaf. I already have it proofing, but I didn't film the beginning of it, but I'm gonna add that and you'll find both of these recipes linked down below. But as I was cutting the green peppers, I was like, actually, that sounds really good. I haven't been super into veggies recently, except carrots, pickles. Are pickles even considered a veggie? I mean, kind of. And tomatoes. But as I was cutting the green peppers, I was like, okay, this sounds really good. So I lied. I'm actually gonna have a huge bowl of this for lunch. It sounds really good, which I'm so happy about. Like, if you've ever had a tough first trimester throughout your pregnancy, you understand the feeling of just feeling like you just don't know what to eat. And I'm so happy this sounds good because my husband really wanted it today and I was like, I'll make it for you and I'll share the recipe. So now that I'm gonna have some, I'm just like over the moon about it. But all I'm gonna do is bring those ingredients I just shared with you to a boil. And then I'm gonna add a half a cup of rice. You can add up to a cup of rice with this much liquid, but I find that too much rice makes it too ricey. I don't know. You need some broth. So I add a half a cup of rice, cook that for 12 minutes, turn off the heat, stir it, and we're ready to go. If you're using brown rice, it's 30 minutes and you need to add more liquid. Same with wild rice. It does need to cook for 30 to 40 minutes, but I will add kind of some instructions for that since I've used both wild and brown rice with this recipe before down in the recipe that is linked on my blog. So then you have all that all together. Okay, in case you're also wondering why I put the big tomatoes in here, it's personal preference. I love these. You could definitely do 2 cans of crushed tomatoes if you want to, but sometimes these will mix up really nicely as the soup starts to cook. And personally, I'm just a tomato, like I love tomatoes. If you can't have tomatoes, try this with a can of pumpkin. It helps to add that like creaminess without the acidity. You can also add a little bit of sugar to cut down on that, but yeah, I know that's a lot of tomatoes. And I know this is not like, hey, we're eating soup and then we have a giant tomato, but personally tomatoes are my absolute favorite. And you can always smush them a little bit with a spoon and they kind of break down a little bit. That's just something my grandma used to do when she made soups, and I just loved when my bowl had a whole tomato in it. So that's why I continue to do it. Okay, we're almost right at a boil because I can hear it, maybe you can't. We're gonna add the half a cup of rice, stir that around. It's okay to do it a few minutes prior to. We're gonna add a lid and then go for 12 minutes. Hey Google, set a timer for 12 minutes.
All right, 12 minutes, sorry, now.
See you in a little bit.
As you may know by now, I love making bread, and I decided this day to make 2 loaves to kind of get a jump start on the week ahead. And I can always make more later in the week, but this way it's already pre-made. I kind of had a schedule for the meal plan that I was chatting with you guys about. So I did a nutritional yeast Italian seasoning one, so it was like a cheesy Italian, and I just did a regular traditional loaf. The traditional loaf I ended up giving away. So I made it ahead to help myself out. But then I was like, you know what? I'm going to gift this loaf of bread. So anyways, I ended up making another one the next day. But hey, I was able to make 6 loaves of bread with this one thing of flour. Anyways, if you've never made homemade bread, this is the easiest one to start with. 3 cups of water, a teaspoon of salt, some seasonings if you want to add it in, 1.5 cups of warm water. You mix it together, you let it sit. If you have the quick active yeast, you can let it sit for 1 hour. It's even better if you let it sit for longer just because that yeast just kind of has time to really rise and really blossom. But it still works out really good. You still have a really crusty, chewy loaf of bread if you let it sit for an hour. So it's completely up to you and your time frame. A lot of times I will make these loaves at night and let them sit overnight. If you have a warm house, it will also rise a little faster. With bread making, the biggest thing I like to tell people who've never made bread before, it's really easy to follow a recipe, but depending on the climate you live in, that recipe may or may not work out, which I think sometimes scares people, because I have people that will tag me over on Instagram and be like, okay, I made your bread, but it was so sticky. And then I just let them know, like, hey, you just need a little bit more flour. You might live in a really humid climate. I live in a really dry climate, so my bread tends to be a little bit drier. And you just kind of go with trial and error, but you're not going to mess it up. If it's sticky, add a little bit more flour. If it's really dry, add a little bit more water. And as you can see, when I add my water, I add a little at a time, and I'll show you here real quick. I didn't even add the 1.5 cups because I know what my bread's supposed to look like. The crock pot bread I made a couple weeks ago, I added 2 cups of water because that was the recipe, and I just assumed it needed more water because it was going in the crock pot, so it was super sticky. But the next time I made it with a 1.5 cups, and it was fine. So this dough is a little bit drier. Yes, I could have added more water, but again, I know what it should look like. And sometimes when you add seasonings into this dough, it tends to be a little bit drier. And you'll see my rise really isn't that great. My kitchen was kind of chilly this morning. It's just because we don't have any carpet in our downstairs. We do have higher ceilings. And on a chilly morning, our downstairs is sometimes chilly because it's just the way I have my heat set, the preference of my house. You could definitely, like I said, move it to a warmer room if you want a better rise. But my bread turned out perfect. And I think it's really important to share with you guys different kinds of weather making bread, so you don't see that my bread always looks the same. As you can see, it's a little bit dry. I liked it that way. I knew it was perfect by the texture of it. I let it rest for about an hour, let it rise. Like I said, you can do it overnight, 6 to 8 hours, whichever works for you. This bread could not be any easier to make. You go ahead and preheat your oven to 450 degrees, and then you're gonna actually pop your bread pan in. Here, I'll explain it to you.
Okay, we're doing 2 different kinds of breads, and I'm not going to do my Dutch oven because I want to show a couple different methods. So into the preheating oven, we're going to put 1 of these bread pans and 1 glass baking dish.
If you have a Dutch oven, you can go ahead and add the bottom, not the lid, of your Dutch oven into your oven and let that preheat. It makes it so that it gets nice and hot, and then the bread doesn't stick. You don't need any additional oils or sprays, and you get a nice, crispy, crunchy crust, which is perfect for soups and toast and bread and croutons and literally everything. And I don't need my bread. I just kind of fold it like an envelope. I saw that on YouTube once, and I absolutely love it. The texture of my bread is perfect. It may not look like it got a huge rise. It doesn't matter. I know what it's supposed to feel like. I know what it's supposed to look like, and this is perfect. So this one I'm making into a quote-unquote traditional style loaf, like a loaf you would buy at the grocery store that you would slice up, kind of that rectangular shape, and then the traditional loaf that's like unflavored, it's just like a traditional white bread. I'm actually making that in a round loaf, and I think these both turned out so beautiful. You're going to see at the end. But again, I kind of fold it like an envelope or in 4. It was told an envelope, but now that I'm looking at it, I can't see the envelope. So anyways, and then I kind of roll this one up into a ball and kind of pinch it under. You can also do a second rise if you want to. It's totally not necessary because it's ready to go. And then all I'm going to do is pat it a little bit because I think it's fun. You don't have to do this because you are going to plop it into the pan. But these are looking so good already, and I love the way that my kitchen smells when I'm making yeasty breads. Even though I don't enjoy it anymore, I know what this bread tastes like. I ate it every single day during our debt payoff journey. I feel like we always made it. I make it now for my husband. So once my oven's preheated, I go ahead and take my pans out. And for this one, I'm doing a lid with another bread pan. It's great. It worked for me for almost a year when I was making this bread and I didn't have a Dutch oven. Pop it in the oven for 30 minutes, then take the lid off for an additional 15. And then go ahead with this one. I'm going to put it in a glass baking dish just to show a different method. And then you're going to cover it with just a piece of aluminum foil. It doesn't have to be on there tight or anything. You just kind of make sure it's a little bit on there so it can kind of steam a little bit like a lid. Pop that in there for 30 minutes. And then 30 minutes later, you're going to take them out, take the lids off, put them back in for 15 minutes. If you have not made this bread, you are missing out. You need to make it ASAP. Ooh, so pretty. Look how perfect. I love this split right here. It makes me so happy. I love the little dusting of flour. So here's my traditional loaf.
Here's my round loaf. As you can see, this one is a little bit crispier already, but no need to worry. They're gonna go back in for 15 minutes and get nice and crispy on the top, and then they're gonna fully cool and be ready to eat.
Let me know in a comment below, are you so excited to get into your kitchen and start baking bread? If you guys haven't seen the pull-apart pizza bread that Kale Junkie shared not too long ago, I highly recommend trying it. That's what I made the round loaf with. I made a pizza bread for my neighbors and they loved it. It was a huge hit. They had a party the other night.
She is all done and she is delicious. I already tried her. Yes, my soup is a her. Okay, this is making my house smell amazing. I'm so happy I made it. I'm so happy that like, as I was making it, I thought it sounded so good. So I just let the rice boil for about 12 minutes. Ah, we can't see. There, now you get a good picture of her. I let the rice boil for about 12 minutes and it's perfect. It's super thick, but yet has some broth. If you don't eat it all at once, the rice will kind of expand. I do get that question a lot with ricey soups, but if you cool it immediately with an ice pack, it'll stop the cooking and then the rice won't continue to cook. Does anybody else eat their soups out of a coffee mug? We did this all the time as kids and now like I love to do as an adult. I'm so excited. Here's a quick visual of lunch. Bread's gonna go in the oven when my husband gets home, so it'll be nice and fresh. Thank you so much, as always, for watching today's video. If you want to keep up with us and our pregnancy and everything, I actually have a very big video going out tomorrow on my other channel, which is linked down below. But before you leave this video, give it a huge thumbs up and make sure you're subscribed, and I will see you Tuesday in a new video. Bye.